I love to have people, I love to have all kinds of friends, all ages. I love to have those who are formally educated. I have a wonderful retarded friend who's been such a blessing to me. I love to have all different types of friends. And each one, God's allowed to be what they are for a different reason. And I just don't see that one's better than another for any, we all just have problems. We're just all people with problems. And I felt she had a little problem with class. She was from the aristocratic more South. The people in the South who were a little more aristocratic, not from the hill people South, but from the aristocratic more South. And I felt, sometimes we'd bring our bus people into the Business Women's High School class, and I didn't think she really wanted them really well much. I judged her on that somehow or other. And we all got together and were talking about our teacher a couple years ago. And we had a reunion and talked about our teacher and all. And a couple ladies who were very unlovely in the world's eyes came to that reunion and started telling how they were from the bus routes, how that they used to go to Mrs. Holt Reniker's house and get help from her, and they were thanking God for how she stood by them when their husband left them. One of them, the husband left, and I sat there just gawking at him. I'd never been in her house for counseling like that. I had no idea that she spent time with the type of lady that was sitting there talking like that. And I said, oh, thank you, Lord, for showing me I was wrong. I'm still sure my teacher had problems. And maybe the Lord let me so I wouldn't think she was perfect. Think that, I don't know, but I never told her because I loved her so much and she helped me so much. But people, if you're going to wait to get help from someone until you find the perfect person, you're going to have to wait until you get to heaven, so you're going to go to the grave with the same problems. Right. You find someone, if you're going to get help, you find someone who is good in the area of your blind spot, though they might not be good in any other area.
That's really good, Mrs. Evans.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, you know, when I first thought about going to Mrs. Hiles, I thought that was such an extreme example. You want to give me a little more on this, Mike? Thank you, dear. She's doing a good job back there. I thought, well, I will never be like Mrs. Hiles. She's a very quiet, soft-spoken, laid-back, reserved, private person. She sings in the choir. She's blonde, she's tall, she's thin. You know, there is no way we are alike. No way. And so my excuse was, well, how can I ever learn? If she's not a little bit like me, how can I learn from her? That was my thinking, okay? And the other thing was, I would often compare my strength to the other person's weakness. So then I'd say, well, I'm better at this than they are, so why should I go ask them about this, some other thing, see? And so those were my two reasons for, you know, if I had them in the back of my mind, I would think, oh, there's no hope, I'm never going to be like, I'll never be like Mrs. Hiles. But see, Mrs. Hiles knew when she planted that thought in my mind, Carol, you care about people, and I did care about people, and caring is feminine, so you are feminine. That was a foundation that I started building on, because she believed in me. And so from there, several times I'll call her, like I'll say, you know, I've got an aqua suit, what kind of accessories will go with it? I'll ask her those kinds of questions. But if I went to her for my mouth, you know, this is the lady who I know can help me with my mouth, because I've got to have somebody strong. And and not that it doesn't mean that Mrs. Hiles wouldn't be able to teach me things, but she's always been so gracious. When she was 15 or 14, and Dr. Hiles picked her up for a date in a Model T with their mother, he would take a handkerchief, a clean handkerchief, and shake it out and set it on the back of the Model T, and she would sit on that so she wouldn't get dusty when she was 14. You know, so I mean, I'm talking such an extreme example. You know, so we have reasons why. Well, I can't go. We X people out. I'm not going to go to her because of this. I'm not going to go to her because of that. And then the other thing is, we don't want to tell. Do I really want to admit to Mrs. Hiles that I've got this problem? Do I really want to admit to this? I've begged people to go. People with marriage problems will come talk to me, and I'll say, go talk to Miss Evans. And they don't want to go admit to Mrs. Evans that they've got a problem with their marriage because they care what Mrs. Evans thinks. So we've got all these little reasons.
When, by the way, they wouldn't have to tell me everything. They could even say, and I could guess it was them, but they wouldn't have to even say it. They could say, I know a couple who has this problem, and I would respect that kind of talk. They don't have to tell me every little thing for me to give some general help.
But I think a lot of it goes back. I think it's pride, and the pride is masked by different things. But it always goes back to my pride, because it still hurts me when we got on this thing about me complaining. You know, in me, I feel I have a right. I was hurt that my food got given away because I was told I'd have food there. But I'm still on that night where I was supposed to have food.
But that food was given to me in the first place, Carol.
I helped you.
That's your food.
But I got the lady to give it to you.
Yeah, but if you're going to get the woman to give it to me, once she gives it to me, it's mine. It's my gift.
And then you told me.
Isn't this the way we do?
And so see, then we go down to, we take it a step further, we're selfish. Okay, yes, it's pride. I don't want anybody to know how bad I am. Then it's, I feel I have a right. Folks, do we have any rights? No. So every time there's an issue why you won't go to somebody, there's a reason. Behavior's always cause is always multiple. So there always goes back to, there's something there that's keeping us. And I've been so burdened. I started in California last February. I got up and told the 500 women, I said, what is going to happen when this lady leaves this earth? Because I don't know.
I always get a little tickle at this, because it kind of seems like it was spinning along pretty good without me before, but...
I don't think it's funny. I took care of that one, didn't I? My concern for this teaching, people are not doing this. We'll just sit and say, well, she can play the piano so good, and she's so good at this, and she's so good at that, and I can't do that. Or say we're not a good homemaker, we won't take someone into our home to help us straighten our drawers. By the way, that's something I've also learned as an adult. I now even have all of everything is rolled. I learned, a staff member who's my friend went into a door girl's room and was checking drawers, and the girl had rolled each pair of panties, so they're all rolled, so they fit in the drawer.
Here we are back.
I'm sorry. I got to thinking, they said I was gracious. I hope I'm sorry if I've been too much of it. You know how drawers are? A big mess. And my drawers are, I learned in my 30s to keep my drawers neat, keep my dresser drawers neat. I can find everything where I want it. It's all organized. But you know why you're frustrated and upset sometimes? Because you can't find things and your house is a mess. And then what happens when your house is a mess? You throw off something with your mouth. Because our life is out of control. I let a lady teach me, and of course while she was teaching me, she said, oh yeah, Miss Fry, I'm really good at this, and this is just me, and I know you're not good at it. I'm not going to say who it is, because it's a younger girl than me. I'm her mentor. And so while she's teaching me how to do the door straight, she's putting me down, telling me how this is straight.
But so what? She knows how to do the stuff.
Now I can do it without her. And they're neat.
I haven't gotten to that point yet. I'm just glad to have my drawers labeled with what's supposed to go in, and I just throw them in there. Slips, girdles,
She has
clothes.
tags on every drawer. Computer tags. And the one drawer says panties, bras, slips, literally in big bold print. So on her dresser, so you just pull it out and throw it in.
Different people help since I'm sick, and then I don't have to tell each one of them where to throw stuff.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
No, that is a long way for me about the drawers. I've come a long way.
You have.
I just haven't gotten to your point yet.
No, to have them rolled?
Right.
I know it.
No.
I'm just up there, aren't I? But there we go again, you know, we're a little bit, okay, us people who are sloppy, okay, we're both creative people. That's our temperament, creative, lots of ideas. And people who tend to be creative have creative messes. Have you ever seen a little sign, you know, my creative, don't touch my desk, I know where everything is on it. It's a big stack of creative mess. Okay, but you know how many of us feeling stupid because somebody else is so neat and we won't let them come and help us with our mess. There we go again, back to pride. I mean, do you know how many things y'all could learn if you just say, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about me, this lady's good at this, I'm going to have her come to my house and teach me. I mean, it is so much fun. And I remember how I would never close any drawer. I'd always leave a door hanging out. I don't know what my thing was, but when I'd open a door, I'd be in a hurry, pull it out, and leave the door about that far open. Always having the doors hanging open.
Sometimes with a slip strap hanging out.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. and so she came to me about 5 years ago. She said, Carol, I want you to learn to keep all your drawers closed and to keep your house so that it's ready for company at all times. And I had previously lived in a one-room studio apartment in a dormitory with 17, for 17 years with hundreds of girls. So all I did was pay a girl to keep my room neat. So then I lived in a one-room little apartment, 16 by 12, in a dorm. And so I moved from there to a small four-room apartment. And so she gave me the goal of that, so I learned to do it. And I mean,
I just asked you to keep the front 2 rooms straight, but now you keep them all.
Always. Everything's in its place. And that's not my natural tendency as a person at all. I'm not that, I didn't get that. And I think so many of us, when I looked up to Mrs. Hiles, I just thought she was born with all that. I used to think Miss Evans just knows, she just knows people. She's a diplomat. She just understands people's, I'm just amazed at how she understands people's feelings. But it isn't, you're not just born with it.
You work at it.
Right. That was good.
The only things I haven't had to work at is eating, sleeping, and one other thing.
Talking.
How could you possibly
forget? How could you possibly forget?
I might not talk right, but I can talk. Those just came naturally. But I don't know anything that you don't have to work at. But we stop working at things. And when you stop working at things, you've all but died. You're not growing. You're not learning.
It's not exciting.
Not exciting. Wouldn't it be something if a Sunday school teacher, she's had a class for 15 years, second grade girls.
8 years old.
8 years old. And now that she's been helping me, and when I'm worse, and she's really having to help me, sometimes a lot more than other times, and she teaches too, and she said, I get there to do my teaching and that type of thing. Wouldn't it be something if a lady who couldn't get out and teach the girls would be the one who would do the object lessons for her every week? Would be the one who brought the treats for her. Working together like that. Where maybe one lady feels, I cannot teach the girls, but I can do these things. We can't even work together to do that. People, I beg you, think. Don't think of all the things. I've had to work on it all. Every little bit.
Take one thing and...
But you cannot take everything at once. What one thing bothers you the most about yourself? Don't tell me. Just answer this yourself. What one thing bothers you the most? Who knows that? Who's good at that? Say it's not cooking healthfully, and so that it tastes good too, so the family can stomach it. So that your family stays healthy and so the weight stays right and things like that. Say it's that. Then who's trying at least in that area? Then could you once a week call them and ask them what they're working on that week? Do they have a new recipe that week? What are they studying? Where are they learning? And what store do they go to get certain things? Do they use olive oil instead of grease and that type of thing to give some taste to certain things? Just one little hint. One little hint a week. Who is it that's even trying? Think of who it is and ask for their help. You don't have to say, I'm a slob, I never will, I'm getting fatter and fatter, I'm just rolling down the aisle. You don't have to say my whole family's sick, they've always got colds, they've always got sinus trouble, I don't cook right, and
But now, Mrs. Evans, what you're pointing out, I think what's really good is that's what we sit and do to ourselves.
And then we go down, 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 down.
Rather than just simply make a decision, this is going to be my plan to learn this thing. I'm going to become accountable to this person. I can tell you right now, this was a lady that doesn't offend people, Mrs. Kuiper. I know that. I can just tell I'm not saying she's perfect, but she's not going to be somebody that's going to offend you, so you're going to be safe to go to her and ask for some help. She sure looks pretty. You could ask her help about clothes. So I can tell that right there. you know, many of you have pastors' wives that have strengths that if you went to, they could learn. And Miss Evans and I have learned together, haven't we, in the 23 years?
Yes.
We've learned together.
As soon as you come back from people I've sent you to, you taught me some of the things those people taught you.
Right.
By the way, as she came to me, I wasn't afraid to send her off to other people that I thought knew that area better.
Right. She didn't try to hold on to me, and she wasn't jealous of me going to another person. And I think that is very important, because I think a lot of times our own, the one amazing thing, my mother, she said when we first got close, I'll back up another step. I made the statement to her when I first met her, we will never be friends. Because I thought we were too alike. And usually the kind of friends I chose were people who complimented me more so I could be in charge of the friendship, all right? And
They were completers.
Right, they were completers, quieter. And so when we met, and she gave me some instructions on some things I had done, and I didn't particularly like it that she corrected me. So I sort of stayed away for a couple weeks and got sort of cool. And you know what I mean? You know, we have a way of keeping people away from us and still speaking to them, but we get distant. We're terrible about that. You know, and then we cut off our influence from that person because we're cool. So I was sort of cool, and she happened to need me for something. A couple weeks later, she called me, and I went to her home, and I remember walking in the front door, and right when I got in the front door, she said, I was surprised that you were a little cool to me after we had our talk. And I said, well, I'm not a spiritual giant, you know. And stupid thing to say.
I had to wear it.
I was a 23-year-old. You know, here I had been a head nurse. I was in my uniform. I mean, I thought, well, I know so much, you know. And so she said that, and I said, well, I'm not a spiritual giant. She said, no, I don't expect you to be. And I said, well, what do you expect? She said, I expect you to be teachable. And I had never heard that phrase before. So in my mind, I said, well, I could be teachable. Well, later I said to her, you know, we can't be friends. And so she said, with the Holy Spirit, anyone can be friends, which I'd never heard that before. And so we together sort of forged. I mean, we'd come to many crossroads where we could have butted heads. But the burden of fellowship is on the follower. It's my job, if I'm going to keep her as my mentor, to follow her and to take what she gives me, no matter how she gives it to me. And most of the time she's given it to me very kindly. But when we became close, she said, is your mother jealous of us? And I said, oh no. I said, and she said, are you sure? I said, Miss Evans, I know my mom would tell me. She would tell me the truth if she was jealous. And so she said, I've got to meet that woman. So when they met, they hit it off. They were friends, close friends. And when you read if you read my parents' book, it tells quite a lot about Miss Evans coming over and how Miss Evans helped me celebrate my parents' life. And just before my mom died, I said, Mom, how come you weren't jealous? And you know what she said? Because I realized no parent can teach their child everything. And I knew Mrs. Evans picked up where I left off. Isn't that something? So she wasn't jealous of a lady who Mrs. Evans could teach me some things my mother couldn't. But you see, my mom cared so much that her girl got it, that she didn't have to feel insecure that Mrs. Evans could come in and teach me some things that my mother did not know. And that's one reason I've had a chance to grow, because I've had two good women that loved me and weren't possessive over me. And then as I come back to her, I'd say, well, Elaine Colston taught me this about organization. She'd say, oh, that's good. And she'd start doing it. So we learned together. And I watched her grow and continue to grow in different areas of organization. Now, putting on her lipstick before she brushes her teeth, she has not grown in that area.
See, the thing is, I can't stand to look in the mirror to brush my teeth without my lipstick on.
So she likes to grab her nice lips and look good, and then brush her teeth, and then put it back on again.
Okay, so confess your faults one to another, that what? That ye might be what? Healed. Do you want to be healed? Who could help you? Are you doing what the Bible says to be healed? Then Titus 2:3-5, that older women likewise, that they may be in behavior as becometh holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things. Teachers of good things. Let these older ladies around here know that you need, pull it out of them. If they say, oh, I don't know, you can pull more out of them than you, if they know more, that
Now, Miss Evans, I just thought of an example. The lady in the wheelchair here, Noma, she's going to say she's not, but she's a person who's been on kidney dialysis a number of years.
25.
How many?
25.
25 years. She was
She's
walking with a
victorious.
cane. Yes, she was walking with a cane.
victorious woman.
She has an artificial limb. She does not complain. Now, somebody ought to get around her and find out,
Pull out from her.
and start questioning her. And if she says, well, I don't know, but then she'll start thinking about it. See, I go to Miss Evans.
Who taught her to be like this?
Right.
She didn't just get this on her own.
The Bible.
The
The
Bible.
Bible.
How much do you study the Bible every day?
I read it every day.
How, like, time-wise?
About an hour.
An hour. So I would go to Miss Evans sometimes and I'd ask her a question. She may not have an answer right away. But pretty soon she'd start thinking. So you've got a lady right here. You don't look for a Marlene Evans, folks. You look for someone who's living that quality that you want to get. And that woman's got a beautiful spirit. She's got some
Excellent spirit. Excellent spirit. If you don't have one, pull a chair up to her and pull out of her what she knows. There's things she doesn't even know she knows that you can get out of her. Teachers are good things. That they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. How many of you have thought, what is the thing you most wish you had help in? I'm not asking you to tell that to me right now, nor am I asking you to come up here and tell it. I just want you to tell me, have you thought what it is? How many have thought what it is? Okay, how many of you thought of someone here you wouldn't even have to tell the whole story to, that if you just got around them, maybe you went to help them, and you'd be able to pick up. You see there's someone you could pick up from. You thought of the person who has.